Yo dudes! Welcome to the best centerpiece vegan Christmas dinner that you will come across.
So this is taking two of our favourite dish. It's taking the traditional Nutloaf, it's taking a Wellington, and we're incorporating a wonderful duxelles to make this an incredible dish.
Yeah, it takes about 40 minutes to make. It's encased in pastry. It's banging. We serve it with gravy, cranberry sauce, roasted veg, and it's fantastic. We're calling it a mushroom. We are calling it a
Nutloaf duxelles Wellington.
Yeah, so it sounds like a mouthful, but it's fantastic. Okay, first step we're gonna make is our duxelles. So what is a duxelles, Steve?
Duxelles, fancy term, originally comes from French cooking. It's normally mushroom based with some onion or shallots and some form of herbs. Often there's cream and butter added, and in place of that, we're gonna put David's dear friend,
tamari. Okay, so we're gonna make it in a food processor. It's easier than chopping it with a knife. We've got one whole onion. I'm gonna add it into the food processor.
300 grams of mushroom of choice. We're using chestnut here. Use whatever mushrooms you have.
Okay, so in terms of herbs, we're gonna add the Christmassy herbs. I've got 4 sage leaves, we're gonna add them in. And obviously the next main Christmassy herb is thyme. We're gonna go in the leaves from 4 sprigs of thyme. Okay, in on top, next ingredient we've got is 100 grams of chestnuts. These are vac-packed chestnuts. You buy in most supermarkets. They're cooked and they go fantastic well and add a meaty kind of texture. So I'm gonna add
earthiness.
So in they go.
In on top, to bring that umami note or the sense of extra savouriness, we have 4 tablespoons of tamari. And final ingredient, I'm gonna go with 1 tablespoon of oil.
Okay, boom. So lid on, and we're just gonna blend until it reaches a nice consistency. Boom.
Okay, we have a non-stick pan on high heat. I'm gonna put in a nice tablespoon of oil in there.
So you can see the texture of our mushroom duxelles. So see, it's come into a consistent paste. It's very brown in color.
And frying it off is just gonna make it even darker brown. And just kind of evaporate some of the moisture and intensify the flavors. Okay, so we've cooked this down for about 4 to 5 minutes. You'll see the degree of moisture evaporating. Just cook it down until the flavor's a little more concentrated because we want a nice solid texture.
It's really earthy and it's great. What we're going to use this for is encasing our nut roast in the pastry. It'll give a lovely contrast of colours. Okay, I've got this in a nice wide bowl. I'm going to spread it out to the edges and set this aside until it cools.
Okay, time to make our nut roast. The pan's nice and hot. We're going to put in 1 tablespoon of oil of choice.
I've got 1 clove of garlic. I've just finely sliced it. I'm going to add it to the pan.
In on top of that, we have 1 leek. Make sure to give it a good rinse because often there's a lot of sediment down the middle of the leek, and we're going to pop that in on top of the garlic.
Beetroot is going to give it this red, fantastic colour to our nut roast, and carrots can add a sense of sweetness. So I'm going to grate them in the food processor. It's just simpler. Obviously use a box grater if you don't have a food processor. Okay, so we fried in the leek for about 5 minutes until it's really reduced in size. It's probably reduced by 200%. That's reduced by
50%.
Reduced by a good bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna add our we've got most of a grated beetroot, probably 200 grams, and we've probably got about 100 grams of carrot.
Beetroot is the sweetest of all veg, so that's gonna bring sweetness, it's also gonna bring earthiness, it's gonna bring that pink color which we want. Carrot is the second sweetest of all veg, so that's bringing more earthy sweetness.
Okay, and on top of that, we're gonna add a decent teaspoon of salt, which is gonna help release lots of the moisture from the beetroot and give that kind of more that pink color to the dish.
Okay, time to add in our spices. In on top, I have 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika for kind of a nice smoky oxtail note, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and 4 tablespoons of nutritional yeast.
I didn't realise nutritional yeast was actually a spice, is it?
Well,
condiment.
It's a condiment, right? We go with a condiment.
Classification. Okay, next step, I've got 100 grams of jackfruit. It's just tin jackfruit. You get it in most supermarkets online. I've got 100 grams. I'm going to slice it up nice and fine. It's going to give a meaty element to this filling.
Just gives a nice texture. Just make sure to drain and rinse any brine from it.
So we're gonna we've got our jackfruit. I've just prepped it. I'm gonna add it straight into the pan.
The beetroot colour will dominate. It's gonna end up nice and pink.
What's quite important to do now is to add your couscous or quinoa. We're using whole milk couscous, 100 grams of cooked whole milk couscous or 100 grams of cooked quinoa. Obviously use the quinoa if you're gluten-free, otherwise whole milk couscous is easier and only takes 5 minutes to cook. And why we're adding it here is we want the pink colour to dominate the couscous before all the moisture is gone from it.
And what the couscous, that's the starch, or that's the binding or the carbohydrate, which is going to help draw the moisture, hold it all together, so when we cut it, it will really hold its shape and texture. Next step, so typically in a nut roast there's often an egg to bind it all together. We're obviously going to use a vegan egg, 3 tablespoons of ground flax, 9 tablespoons of water, pop them in on top of each other and just give it a nice stir. Leave it for 5 minutes and it's going to coagulate.
Okay, so we've got quite a bit of caramelization happening in the bottom of the pan, a bit of flavour. It's time to deglaze. I'm going to deglaze it with 100 ml of white wine. It's going to really infuse a nice bit of flavour into it.
And Dave's saying there's quite a bit of caramelization, meaning the vegetables are sticking to the pan.
Yes.
We're putting in the wine to incorporate that just crispiness. Okay, we've incorporated it all together. I have my ground flax now. You'll see it's kind of coagulated. I'm going to pop that in. We're turning the heat off right now. We've got 100 grams, is it, of each?
We've 150 grams of toasted cashew nuts and 100 grams of walnuts.
Toast them both, just put them in a dry pan until they start to toast, or bake them in the oven 180 degrees for about 6 to 10 minutes.
I'm going to crumble our walnuts just for a contrast of texture.
Obviously nut roast, there are roasted nuts in it. What they bring is typically nuts are around 50% fat content, so they're going to up the calorific load, add more bite, more protein, more substance and more whole
And a
food
contrast
fat.
of texture as well, which is really important.
And time to add in our egg.
And now it's just to fold it all together.
Okay, final few condiments just to finish this. We're going to with 2 tablespoons of Dave's dear friend tamari. If you don't have tamari, use soy sauce.
It's just going to give a depth of flavour, as I say every time. The final thing we're going to do is juice of half a lemon. It's going to kind of give a nice contrast of flavour again.
At this point now you can decide whether you want that degree of texture, bite, variety where it doesn't look uniform.
Super tasty, really is.
Right now we wanted this to look as close as it can. The traditional Wellington was a beef Wellington. It was very pink in colour, so we want to make this more uniform and more like its counterpart, because our aunts and uncles are going to be having Christmas dinner with us and they aren't traditionally vegan. So into the food processor, we're going to blitz this.
Okay, so now it's the fun bit, it's putting it all together. So we've got a
baking tray, preheat our oven to 180 degrees Celsius on fan oven. We've got 1 sheet of puff pastry which we have poured. Time to take our duxelle, it's cooled down nicely, take a silicone spatula and we're going to spread it out, make a nice thin layer. Okay, time to show you how to get our filling in here and to get this lovely beautiful division of layers. So take our Nutloaf 2.0. Okay, compact it into so it's around the same size as our puff pastry.
Okay, so now we've got our pink filling here, our nut roast filling. I'm just going to pop it in the middle of our...
Just be careful here. The one thing that you want is that you land it perfectly down and that we don't mix these two wonderful colours together. Okay, this is a simple way to ensure that your fold side is down, seam side down, and it's an easy way because if you're doing this on your own, you can feel a bit nervy and a bit afraid. So just roll it over gently, boom, land her down. You'll note that we haven't kind of tidied up the edges yet because it's much easier to get it from the top. A nice simple trick, take some little Christmas molds and just roll it a little bit of pastry. It'll just make it look a little bit more festive.
Final touch just before we put it in the oven is we've got a bit of non-dairy milk and we're going to brush it with a pastry brush, it'll ensure that it goes nice and golden. It will stick our little shapes to the top of it.
We've preheated the oven to 180 degrees. We're going to bake it for about 25 to 30 minutes. And what we want is a real crispy, puffy, golden looking pastry.
So the nut roast Wellington has been in the oven for about 25-30 minutes now. It's golden, it's perfect. Wait till you see it now.
Oh, she looks great. So you see it's browned up beautifully. The one thing you want to notice is that the puff pastry is puffed up, it's gone crispy, it's caramelized around the edges. Easiest way to cut a Wellington is with a serrated knife, meaning it has little teeth along the side as opposed to a chef's knife or a palette knife. Okay, ready?
So hopefully there should be a really distinct division of layers here.
Here we go, excited to see this.
Big reveal.
Oh! Jeez, it does look great actually. It really, really does, doesn't it?
So it holds together really well. The filling was nice and dry, the stuffing was. It's beautiful. The duxelles going to come together really nice. So all that's left to do is to taste it. I've made a simple gravy here. I'm going to add a little bit on top.
Your gravy's warmer, it's going to be a lot more viscous. Dave's let it cool a little bit.
I'll just put a little bit on top. Boom. There you have it, simple. Oh, I've lost half mine.
Okay, here we go.
But that was easy. It took us about 40-50 minutes to make. It's probably going to be pretty hot for me to taste it here. But it tastes fantastic. It works great as a centerpiece. If you're looking for more vegan Christmas dinner ideas, we've got an ebook on our website, so do check that out.
That is really delicious. Very hot, by the way. Really tasty. Like there's a real earthiness, there's a mushroomness, there's a nuttiness, there's a sweetness, there's a herbiness, there's a lovely fat kind of crispy, flaky.
Really good.
Magnificent. Really,
Works,
really
Bob. Link to the full recipe down below if you want the written recipe, and would work great as a centerpiece. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.